Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Minded Talk podcast. This time we're gonna dive into our section, which is called Deep Dive, where we're gonna discuss about different topics, especially maybe about language learning related things. And this time we have the topic of the significance of grammar in class. So, Eniko, what do you think about grammar in class? How important is it from the scale of 1 to 10? 10
1 to
being the,
10
the most important.
and 0 is least important.
Yeah,
Okay.
0 is less important than 1.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, grammar. People in Japan think that grammar maybe is the most important thing, right? If you see at the classes at
Yeah.
university, they have special grammar classes, when learning languages. Yeah, I think almost all in university I used to work, they had like the conversation class and a separate grammar class. And yeah, the answer to your question, I think grammar isn't that important, like everybody thinks. To me, it's 5 or 4.
hmm
I think it's not the
Yeah.
most important thing. What do you think?
A- And well, in my case, I think I probably have pretty much the same opinion, somewhere around 5 to 6, I would
Hmm.
say. I don't really focus on that much because, first trouble, I cannot really explain grammar that much. I think nobody can. Like you can just systematically explain that, oh, this is where the verb comes in, and then this is the part you need to, put behind the verb so that the whole thing would mean this and that. And it is important to some extent, but I wouldn't ever focus it because, well, on my side, I cannot really explain that part. And I think when my students are asking me about anything on grammar, why is it like this? What they want is not really the explanation on what it is linguistically, but they just kind of panicking. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know this kind of structure. Please give me some further example sentences. So that's what I mainly do. And I bring it like more on the communication side by doing this.
Hmm. The question is, why do people focus so much on grammar? Is this a cultural
Mm.
thing, or is it because people need some rules and something they can uh,
Well,
uh,
good question. But I feel like it's not necessarily just in Japan that students tend to focus on grammar. Seeing the people in Germany learning different languages and in Hungary as well, they tend to do that. It's kind of like when you try to figure everything out by just listening and try to understand the vocabulary, the sentence structure through that, it might take time. And for that, grammar is good because once you have a list of things, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay. If this kind of structure appears, then this should mean like this. So if you have a list firsthand, then it does make things easier. But I think still they put too much focus on that when they're
yeah.
learning a language.
And yeah, this is that's a major question, no? Why does everybody focus on grammar? And I think it's because most of the students or our students are adults, no? And we cannot learn language easily like children do. Actually, no, I don't know any children who learns a language, mother tongue, with the grammatical rules, right?
Mhm.
Children, they just pick it up and they get a feeling for the language, and they will know what is right and what is not right, even though they can't
Yeah,
explain it, right? By the way, it's
yeah,
actually how like the AI works nowadays, right? The AI, like ChatGPT or Gemini
yeah.
or
Your
that,
favorites.
that yeah. But I mean, this AI doesn't know any rules, I think. It doesn't know any
You
grammatical
mean,
rules. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's more like a probability of words, and it's more like a child learning it as it. the AI has a big source of many of millions, billions of sentences and combinations of words. And from that, it learns, it knows what is correct and what is wrong. And it's the same with
Yeah.
children, actually. Children is the same. The children hear all the phrases in daily life from, from the environment, and they learn by just catching it up, no? So like catching it and using it. But
So
adults, I
yeah,
think
please.
we are different, right? But as an adult, we need something like a structure, like an architecture of the language we want to understand. And I think this is a problem, that people think they have to understand the language.
Do you know what I think? I think when it comes to adults, they focus too much on effectiveness, how fast they can
Okay.
learn things. Because oh, they have so much things to do. They also have to work. They are busy, so they cannot spend too much time on language learning, and they get super annoyed. Like seeing my students, I can tell that, but they really get so frustrated when they hear something in a language that they're learning and they don't
Mm.
understand anything. And like, oh my gosh, I need to be understanding something, but I can pick up maybe 2 to 3 words and that's it. So I feel like trying to make it more effective is the bad thing maybe. And then because of that, they focus on grammar. But if you
But is it,
say,
sorry,
yeah, please.
but is it effective in your to your mind? Do you think it's
No.
effective?
No,
Or
not
if
really. I
or
mean,
efficient? I mean, efficient. I think it's more a question of efficiency. No, maybe it's
yeah.
effective, but is it efficient?
I feel like when your focus is really just understanding specific types of texts, then maybe it's efficient to have grammar in hand. Like when you're just reading a specific kind of novel, when you want to read Goethe in German, and you have a specific passage that you like and you want to understand it, and then you have a grammar in hand, that's kind of good. Or you're working with legal texts and you want to have specific types of grammar, then it's also useful. But if you're just generally trying to learn a language and communication, sometimes reading, sometimes listening in different situations, then I wouldn't say that's the most effective to
Mm.
focus fully on grammar.
Mm. Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but as a teacher, I also learned a little bit like how, I mean, education changed was changed with the time, right? It's the same with like medicine, all the sciences they change, and it's also in with pedagogic,
Hmm.
and I think it's still the leftover of the former way of teaching languages. And if you look in the past, like 200, 300, 400 years ago, first of all, not ordinary people couldn't learn any foreign language. There were only people from the church or royals who were able to learn a foreign language. And they learned like French, or very important, especially church and science, was Latin, Latin language.
Hmm.
And Latin language, for Latin language, it's the grammar is important because the grammar is complex, or the French is quite complex. And additionally, uh, you you they didn't use, I mean, French they didn't use, but they did use, but they didn't use Latin Go for normal conversation. They were reading text, translating text, writing books. It was more focused on translating, I think. And if you want to translate something, grammar is very important, I think. And if I look back to my childhood when I learned language, it was also very grammar um,
Focused.
focused, yeah. And maybe it's still from that time they still teach languages like they did decades, centuries ago, for letting
We
go.
still have the
Letting go,
tradition from
Latin language. Yeah.
14th
Mm,
century.
yeah.
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 But then
I
Nico,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah.
If grammar is not so important for you, what is important for you?
The most important thing for sure, number 10 are vocabularies and phrases.
Hmm.
Uh, I think this is the most important thing, and this is also the crucial point. People, used to work for the Goethe Institute for yeah almost 17 years, and I did many examines. I mean, the people did examines. I was correcting tags and did the examines with them, and most of the people fail the test because a lack of vocabularies, not because they don't know grammar properly or they don't use grammar properly. And there is no section in the test like a grammar. There's no grammar test in the like a German Goethe test. There's no
Uh,
section for
We
grammar.
have that in we have that in JLPT, Japanese exam.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
but it doesn't exist in the German tests. And yeah, it's because I give an example. Um, if I can speak completely grammarly free. Ne? If I say, ne, I, Enrico, come from Germany, live Japan, teacher I am. Everybody understands what I said, even though the grammar is terrible, right?
Yeah.
And even if I make a mistake, I think I'm sure I make many mistakes when speaking English, but people still understand me. If I make a mistake with a vocabulary, people may not understand me, right?
Hmm.
Huh?
Yeah, true.
If
But
Yeah,
do you find it's easy to teach vocabulary in a classroom? Or is it
oh,
something that students should be practicing at home on their own? Because I find it kind of difficult sometimes when my students tell me that I still need to practice this vocabulary, I don't have it in mind. I still need to make thousands of flashcards, and it's not easy to go through all of them because I have 5,000 words at this point and stuff.
yeah, I think it's easy if you find your own way, the way that fits to your personality. I think it's quite
To
easy. But
to my personality or to the students' personality?
to the student personality. So, but maybe that's a good topic for another podcast, maybe learning
Exactly.
vocabularies. I think it's a yeah, it's a kind of uh, a big topic,
Yeah,
and let's do it maybe in a separate podcast.
definitely.
Yeah,
I feel like vocabulary is one thing, but for the classroom, I find it actually harder to teach vocabulary. And that's why maybe grammar is sometimes easier for the teachers to focus on as well, because
why?
you can explain the principle and then say, now we have a practice, then let's do the practice sheet of whatever. But the vocabulary, you might need to prepare some documents. This is the meaning, this is the verb, this is the kind of words that we need to learn, and then please learn it. And it depends on the students whether they actively learn it or not. And a lot of students are stuck over there when they have to learn vocabulary. But for me, I don't focus on grammar either in my classes. I see the most important parts on my classes in three parts mainly. First, the language. So it does play some role when we talk about grammar. Like it is to some extent important, but not the most important. I tend to focus more on the cultural aspect and the communication. Because in the end, I feel like when they go to Japan and they try to communicate with new people, but figure out that their mentality is completely different. I want them to still be able to communicate and have to
Mm,
say like what they
yeah,
want to ask. I want them to have enough basis for that because it's sometimes difficult to go to a different country and then try to start talking to new people. But all of a sudden you realize that, people are not the
Hmm.
same as I figured out in the textbooks. They speak in a completely different way. And their mentality, they might not like you because that's the truth, unfortunately. They might not like you just because you're learning Japanese and then you're visiting Japan and like, oh, amazing, foreigners interested in Japanese culture. So, yeah, I want them to be able to listen and understand people and also still have, not to say the confidence, but the basis that they can always, they should be able to say
Hmm.
something, anything that they want, that they need.
That's a very big part, also learning language, also the culture behind the language. But my point is, why we're also talking about grammar. My problem is I don't have any problem with grammar. It's not like I'm against learning grammar. My point is, why do people or why do teachers separate it? It's to my mind doesn't make sense to teach grammar and the next lesson or the next section you teach vocabularies and then after that you teach culture. It's always together, you know. Even if you do a grammatical exercise, you will also practice the words and vocabularies, right? You cannot practice grammar without any words. It's impossible.
Mhm.
And it's also not doesn't make sense to practice vocabularies without grammar, because if there's no grammar means you don't have any context. If you just learn
Mhm.
with cards, you memorize the words, the vocabulary itself, but you don't learn how to use them in a right context, in a cultural context. You know, some vocabulary, some words you use in this situation and others in other situation, especially Japanese. It's for me the most difficult thing in Japanese is not grammar or vocabularies itself. It's when do I use which vocabulary? When do I use which?
Yeah,
We call it register, right? Or in German, Register. The way of speaking, keigo or teneke or futsuke,
yeah,
which word is
yeah,
appropriate in this situation and how do I use it? And this is you have to learn it together. And this is my point. Grammar, only grammar doesn't make any sense. It's just a structure. It's like if you want
yeah,
to build a house and you just have the walls and the basement. That's not a house. You need more. You need a window. You need a roof. You need furniture. It's and I think that's a problem to separate it. I think you have to do it integratedly. I mean, grammar
yeah,
not separately. Of course, you can focus on the grammatical structure, but maybe to make a routine out of it. For example, like a grammatical, like a syntax structure. Like in German, for example, with a Nebensatz, no? We have the verb that in the end. It's maybe the students are not familiar with this concept because they learned English and they don't know that or they don't are not familiar with the concept that all the verbs in the end. You know? So, but I cannot practice it without any cultural background, without any situation, and without vocabularies.
yeah.
So,
I feel the same. I think it kind of depends. Some students say they need a bunch of example sentences firsthand, that they need to listen some kind of familiar structure, but they still don't understand how to structure it, and then learn the grammar, I don't know, the logic behind it. And then they're like, oh, okay, that's what they were saying. Or the other students prefer the other way around. First the grammar structure, and then get a lot of exposure to that kind of structure when it's used, when not to be used, and things like that. But I definitely think that it's the important part is to be exposed enough to be able to understand when it's used. So in the communications, so in my class, I usually teach everything in Japanese, not in the language that the students are already familiar with. I mean, I can speak in different languages. When I'm teaching my Hungarian students, then I can explain it technically in Hungarian or in German when they're German speakers. But I don't really do that because, first of all, I want them to be able to understand the context, and I want to give them a lot of sentences so that they understand when it's being used. And I mean, another problem being when I'm speaking in one language, then I cannot really switch into another one so
Mm.
quickly, and my translation would be terrible. But yeah, like I remember in my Japanese high schools, it was the same thing. One part of the English class was called communication practice. The other one was the grammar practice.
Mm.
But the problem was in a grammar class, obviously we did the grammar thing. So everything was explained in Japanese. But in a communication class, what the teachers did was actually the exact same, just using another textbook. They were
Mm.
still dealing with grammar because when we read a passage and we don't understand some parts, they still need to understand the exact specific parts that we didn't understand. And that's apparently sometimes vocabulary or the grammar
Mm.
or something else. And yeah, they still explained everything in Japanese, which is another problem. But I think it's not something that gets like that could be taught independently, as you said.
Yeah, it just actually shows that it's impossible to do just once. You said here they do actually do the same because they cannot separate the grammar from vocabularies or from, you know? Um, so, but maybe this is also a very good topic for another podcast about the language, the language the teachers uses in classes. I think it's also a big topic. Shall we teach in the language of they learn, or in their mother
Mhm.
tongue, or both, or other languages? Ne? This is also a good topic to discuss. But yeah, but this actually proves no, you cannot do it separately. So that's why I think a grammar class doesn't make. Maybe it makes sense to some instance, but it's not very efficient. Let's
Yeah.
say that, no? And it's the same like in the past, many universities they had like classes who focus on, I don't know in English how to say it, like or they have listening classes, reading classes, speaking classes, and writing classes. I think this is also not very efficient to separate it because you cannot just listen. Yeah, this is also what I do in my class at university when I still have one listening class at one university. And my first lesson, I tell the students, yeah, that's a listening class. So that's why now we have 100 minutes and let's listen 100 minutes. And then we listen. And after 1 minute, they've noticed, if we have to listen 100 minutes, this doesn't really work because listening and speaking and writing and reading is not something you can separate completely. If you want to listen, there must be somebody who speaks, right?
Yeah.
Or if you, I mean, if you want to write something, you have to also to read at least what you wrote, yeah, or something else. You don't write something without any context. There is something. Maybe you heard or listened to something, and then you write something to that, or you read something before, and you answer, for example, like an email or a letter. And this is also something I don't understand why they separated between listening and reading, and because it belongs together. Uh, and
Yeah. But I also feel like the focus in those kind of classes is the exams in the end. It's not really communication. But if you have separate parts in the exams, like Goethe exams have listening part, speaking part, writing part, and what else was it?
uh,
Reading part.
reading, yeah, reading, listening,
So if you want to
writing,
do
and
the exam and then you need to be like they're graded kind of separatedly, and also to as a total how much
mm,
point you got. So in that case, like if you're focusing on that and then you want to strengthen specific parts, then maybe that's what you do. But I
But it
don't
doesn't
know if
work.
everybody's no.
I don't think it works. And it's also a question, what is the goal? What is the purpose of learning a language? It's not to pass a test. Now, with a test,
Yeah, but
they
I
they
think unfortunately I don't a lot of students mess up with that part. Like,
and it doesn't work, I think. It doesn't work. Even if they take listening classes because they want to pass the listening part of a Goethe test, it won't work if they don't vocabularies. You know
hmm,
what I mean? It's they don't understand vocabularies they know. You cannot understand vocabularies you haven't learned, right?
yeah.
The unknown words, you don't notice unknown words. You don't know what they mean. So means
Sometimes
um
you would if the context is
yeah, okay,
understandable,
okay.
clear.
Okay, but yeah, that's correct. But in general, you have to have a
Mm,
certain amount of vocabularies and phrases, words and phrases in your mind to understand something, right? Like listen, like an audio or like a reading text. So means if you learn words, you use it for reading, listening, writing, and speaking. So, and it's the same with grammar. You don't learn grammar just for listening. No, you need it also for writing, for speaking. You need grammar everywhere. So, and this is also my student, my lesson listening class. I asked them what you would like to focus on the listening class, and they wrote, "Yeah, I want to understand in a better way." Yeah, yeah,
which, by the
no,
way.
yeah, I understand. Of course, this is the purpose of this class. But how do you want to go there? The thing is not the goal. It's the way to achieve the goal. That's the important thing. And
I mean, I think it's difficult for students to tell that sometimes. Seeing my students, they know that they want to be able to improve their skill or to be able to fluently communicate with people, but they don't really know how to do that. And that's my part to help them.
hmm,
But I don't know. But the problem is also in that they themselves don't know how to learn the languages, and it's hard, and then it's emotional to some people. So they're like, oh, yeah, I really want to improve my skill, but I don't really know exactly what to do. That's, and then they start thinking like, oh, grammar. Maybe that's also kind of traumatizing experience from school. Oh, I
hmm.
had to learn this language, or this is the way they taught me, so this is how it's supposed to be like when you're learning a language. So that's
Yeah,
what I see.
especially German. I mean, people many people learn German because they like the German grammar, because they're interested in grammar. And other people don't learn German because the grammar
You
is too
sure?
complex. Yeah, I had many students also at the Goethe Institute, and I asked, why do you learn German? Yeah, because the grammar is so interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, but and
I
other people don't learn German because the grammar is too complex, and they are afraid of learning this language, and they're afraid of not being able to speak because the grammar is too complex. But
I've never heard of that in my Japanese class. Like, oh, your grammar is so fascinating. I want to learn this language.
yeah, maybe it's
Except for
also
just
because yeah. Oh, Aki, what's wrong? Oh, Aki, you are frozen. Maybe I stop the video and we go on later once we have solved the technical problem. So, Aki, you are back. You're back. What
I'm
happened?
back. I'm back. I managed to my internet, and then you and Nico just told me that I'm not really living in Germany, so
Yeah,
there's no way
I'm
to understand
surprised.
why the internet is gone.
Yeah, I mean, if you are if you are
Yeah.
in Germany, okay, I understand.
But anywho, like there was just one student, not really my student. She was studying linguistics. She's a bit older than me. And then in that case, it makes sense. Like I find it so fascinating in Japanese. Like the thing that I love about Japanese language is the grammar. That's the only
Yeah.
time that I heard it.
But
And then I was
mm,
like, thank goodness I'm not teaching you. But
maybe with Japanese, I think because the Japanese grammar is not that complex, right? Not so complicated. But maybe you have many students
yeah,
who also learn Japanese because they like kanji, because I think kanji is very interesting, is it? Don't
kanji
you?
is fascinating. At the beginning, I actually thought that's where I would have the most problem as a teacher because like the things are complicated and we don't even know how many kanjis we have. For daily use, 2000 something, 200, 300 kanjis. But like generally, including all the kanjis that we have, we don't even know how many. So that's kind of really always stressful for my students to think about. But actually, my students don't really hate learning kanjis in general. Katakana is harder because they appear way less
Mm,
and you don't even understand why they exist.
mm,
Like, I probably have to explain what it is for the people listening. And we have hiragana, katakana, kanji. These are the three types of writings that we have in Japanese. Hiragana and katakana are phonetic, but generally, katakana appears only for maybe foreign words and sometimes in a different context as well, but mainly that. And kanji is a hieroglyph, I would say. So
mm.
by seeing it, it kind of makes sense what it means. And yeah, it's not phonetic, so you have to learn how to read them. So that's the hard part. But katakana appears where way less than the other writings, so that's kind of
Right, right. But
difficult.
what I wanted to say is because you were wondering that there are students who learn German because they like the grammar or they find the grammar is very interesting. I think it's the same
Yeah.
the same thing like Germans or like English learn Japanese because I like kanji. Because the purpose is not to
Hmm.
use a kanji, the purpose is not to use a grammar actually when learning a language. The purpose is, I thought, the purpose is to communicate. This is what I think. Or if you need a language for translating. But the question is, it's also another topic for another podcast. Do we still need to learn translating? You know, I mean, nowadays,
Fascinating. We have so many topics to
so
talk
many
about.
topics. My gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, to my mind, grammar is important because you need grammar if you want to speak the language correctly. If you want, um, yeah, it's also if you want to show that you understand the language and if you want to make a good impression on other people, of course, you need grammar because grammar is a structure. But it's not that crucial like people think. It's the most important thing to my mind, because even if you make a mistake, you can still communicate. And I think if you see the different languages in German, maybe people are quite sensitive on grammar and they focus on grammar. But look at English, English is the language that's ever spoken everywhere in the world. Do you think that the Americans or British are so strict on grammatical issues? They are that when they're talking with foreigners in English, maybe it's completely normal that the people make mistakes, right? They are used to it.
Hmm.
They know that people make mistakes and they don't care. This is my impression. Nobody cares. I don't know any. I haven't never experienced that an English or like an American corrected my English or something like this. Oh, this is not wrong. We have to do it differently. Your grammar is wrong.
Yeah.
No, never ever.
Because I
But
think, yeah.
sorry, just one sentence. But in German, if you have a wrong article, that's not there. It's die.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, in general, when you're talking to people, the focus is not really grammar, but you're trying to understand each other. So that's why people don't usually,
Hmm.
we both know some people who do that as well,
Yeah.
but usually just people want to keep listening to get the context of like what you're trying to say. So they're not going to stop you at each and every grammar mistake that you make. But, you know, but I still remember you saying when you were explaining about the German grammar in your class, Derrida's articles. What is it? Why is it important? And you said, oh, it's not really important. It's just kind of accessory to the language. It's not important for understanding things, but it's just there. Maybe it makes it more beautiful. And then I said, no, it's just annoying. But that's the kind of thing we see, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's also what I try to this is my message to my students. Yeah, grammar is important, but don't um don't get desperate. Yeah, and if you
Mm.
make a mistake, it's completely fine. Yeah, and everybody makes mistakes. Even Germans make mistakes. My first video even I made a mistake, a grammatical mistake. By the way, if you listen the episode 1 and you find my mistake, you can write in the comment.
Yeah. And then you get
Um,
10 points.
yeah, yeah. I think, and also for the German test at Goethe-Institut, it's, for example, if you attend A1 anyway, A1 or 2 until B2, it's totally fine to make mistakes. It's not like you cannot pass a test because you had grammatical mistakes. No, it's completely fine. If you have that C2 level, yeah, they expect you to speak properly and that you make just very little mistakes. And maybe C1 is also more focused on correctness. But until B2, and B2 level is quite high level, right? It's totally fine, even it's fine to make mistakes even in the exam. As long
Yeah.
as it is we understand you and it's clear, it's fine. It's not like you have to
Yeah.
speak perfect German in the German test. No, because the grammar is not that important for communication, for understanding than, for example, words, vocabularies.
Yeah.
If you have the wrong
So
phrase, it can mean something completely different.
so apparently, guys, even when you're doing some exams, it's not always the focus for grammar. So you don't have to panic because of that. Not just in the communication, that's, yeah, grammar is not the focus. It's also from time to time in the different kinds of exams, because once again, in JLPT, I think they put too much focus on grammar. And there's no writing part, there's no speaking part. It's just listening, where you have to choose between 1 to 4, which is the right answer.
Mm,
And it's not, I don't think you can really test or prove your language knowledge. But I mean, I cannot change the exam, so that's what we do when students want to do
yeah,
that.
yeah. I think the
So,
EQ, or you have to do the EQ, then you have a conversation part. I think EQ
hmm.
has also a speaking part, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think the last time I checked it, maybe they didn't have it anymore.
Anymore, but they used to have in the past. I know from a
Yeah.
friend, he did the EQ and he had to do the speaking part too. Okay,
That would
that's
be
that's
nice,
something
but
we a good homework to find out. And yeah, and guys, yeah,
exactly.
if you want to if you want to have a speaking part in a Japanese language proficiency test, do the EQ.
If they have that part, I doubt that. But yeah, on that note, I think we more or less said everything, or we didn't say everything that we wanted to say. So we definitely have a whole bunch of other things to discuss, as you can see.
Yeah,
How exciting. So,
yeah,
but for today, I guess our conclusion, I mean, we don't really have to make a conclusion, but it's not the focus to learn grammar. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So I think we are fairly the same opinion, right?
yeah,
Mm.
kind of boring, right? I think we need to find some topics where we can really fight against each other,
Yeah,
and then it will
yeah,
be interesting.
yeah. No, but I think it's also even if we have the same opinions, maybe there are different reasons for our opinion. Well, that's why
Yeah,
a discussion
exactly.
can be also interesting, even though you have the same opinion, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
cool. Then see you guys for the next time. And that was it for the day.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe guys, if you have a different opinion, please write it down in the comment section. Leave a
Yeah.
comment, or if you find something was wrong what we said, or you have another issue we should discuss next time.
Or any grammar mistakes that we made while
Oh
we were
yeah,
talking.
okay. My homework for you guys. Please watch the video, focus on my mistakes, and write in the comment section.
And mine.
Yeah, your
Roast
English much
us.
better than mine.
Cool. Then, on that note, thanks, guys, for listening, for watching, and see you next time. Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
see you. Bye bye.